Hello, welcome to On the Ground. I'm Benjamin King. I'm the CEO of Kinyu SEM, a supply chain focused employer of record in China here on the ground in Guangzhou. Today I am joined with Timur Kao, who is from Asian Risks, an commercial insurance expert. And today we're going to talk all about insurance. Doesn't sound like the most exciting of topics, but it's an extremely important one if you are employing people here on the ground in China. So thank you, Timur, for joining us. And I think maybe we can just start by, you can give an introduction to yourself, and we're also going to go through some key insurance parts that, if you're employing on the ground, are most important. So employer liability insurance, public liability insurance, and potentially professional indemnity insurance as well. So thank you for coming, Timur.
Thank you, Ben. It's nice to be here. It's a pleasure to be part of this. We are insurance brokers. We work with foreign companies in China, providing assistance with general liability, property insurance, employee benefits, and so on. And as you mentioned, insurance is very important, but a lot of people don't know how it works or don't have the patience to go through the details of their insurance policies. So this is where we come in.
Yeah, I think that last point is really important, because when people are hiring on the ground, it's a business commercial decision, and they're really focusing on what the employee is going to do and how they're going to add value to the company, but they don't tend to focus too much on the risk element of employing someone, apart from maybe the financial and the salary, etc. But that's where the insurance comes in. And I mean, for us, focusing on the HR and employing people, and therefore taking on an element of risk, it's a key part of our business. So yeah, insurance is very important. Mm-hmm. Just before we kick off, just make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. Plenty of episodes on all sorts of HR topics coming up. Yeah, Timur, I mean, how long have you been working in the sort of insurance space here in China?
I've been working at Asian Risks for 5 years now, and before that, I was running a factory. I helped set up and run a factory in Brazil, São Paulo. Oh, right. And also, I worked with a Chinese and Brazilian joint venture in Shandong here in China, and that's where my first contact with insurance was: insurance for the factory, liability, property, and so on. As an engineer, I pick up things pretty fast, and insurance makes a lot of sense once you know how it works, once you've seen enough policies. It's after a while, it gets quite straightforward, and as long as you know how things work and where the risks are. Insurance is also a very, like you mentioned, the financial departments are the ones usually more concerned with insurance, because it's a way of quantifying risk. For example, if an employee has an accident, or in the worst case scenario passes away, how much would that cost? Well, most people don't know, but if you have insurance, you know how much your insurance policy costs, and that will cover most of it. So it's a way of quantifying risk and managing this so that the company's financial stability is kept stable. Yeah,
and that's a really interesting point, because what happens, people set up an entity in China, they hire the people, they get outsourced accounting to come in and do the bookkeeping and all of this. Insurance never comes into that conversation. Social insurance, of course, because that's mandatory by law, but employer liability insurance never really comes into that conversation. It seems to be one that has to be driven by the company itself. And if you have an entity in China, the finance team tends to be, if you've got a small team here, the finance tends to be overseas and maybe less connected with actually what's going on here on the ground. So that's where, I mean, for us, and it's the same with severance and liability in terms of if you want to terminate one. And we did a big episode on termination recently as well. What liabilities are you actually taking on when you employ people here? And I think the decisions, the salary and the monthly cost might get signed off by finance in home country, but the liability is probably there's less information about that. And so trying to understand what that is really important.
Yes. As long as you have employees, you have people working for you, accidents can happen. So employer's liability covers exactly this, the losses, medical costs, lost wages in case of death, and compensation as well, or permanent disability. It can cover a really broad range of things. And in China, it's not as common as in some other countries because it's not compulsory. For example, in the UK, employer's liability AL is compulsory. Companies have to have it.
Yeah.
While in, for example, Germany or the Netherlands, there's workers' compensation, which is the Gongshang accident-related insurance over here in China. So that's compulsory. But in China, this might not be, the cover might not be as broad as people wish. And something a lot of people don't know is that the labor law in China really protects the workers. Most people don't know. So if someone gets injured, they sometimes don't go after their rights. But if they do, then that can be a very, very big risk for the company. So our recommendation is always go by the book, get insurance so that you're covered. Of course, you're having social insurance as well. But anything beyond that, legal defense costs and compensation that's not covered by social insurance, it can be covered too. Something interesting is that social insurance, there's 5 main ones, if I remember right. There's medical, retirement, maternity, housing, I think.
Unemployment.
And work-related accident. And this one has the lowest... has the lowest rate, like it's the one where companies pay the least for. It's very tiny compared to the other ones, and it still does not cover everything. It covers accidents, but work-related diseases, for example, that's not covered under because it's part of the job.
And just in your experience, how aware are these foreign companies? So you've said that you mentioned about the labor law and very employee friendly, but in general, what kind of companies are coming to you thinking, proactively thinking, I need to get this insurance?
Pretty much any type of company. They can be service related, manufacturing related. I have companies who are in the medical industry, who are in the food and beverage, who provide services, consultants, outsourcing, factories as well. So if you have an employee, you do have risks. So it's just a matter of estimating how big these risks are and taking steps to mitigate them.
And I mean, do you generally, when people come to you, what sort of stage are they at? I mean, like, have they had issues before? I mean, are there sort of some companies that, don't tend to get it, or they're not aware?
It depends a lot on the person. The biggest reason that we work with foreign companies mostly is that European, US, and Australian companies, they have this history of insurance. They have this awareness. So even though they might not know how the details work, they know that's something important. Other countries, maybe not so much, like Latin America and Africa, they heard about it, but they don't know how it works, or they think it's a waste of money because probably these accidents are never going to happen. In some Chinese companies as well, they are not aware how it works, or they think we can deal with our employees. They don't know the law, so the risk is not very high. Sometimes, and this is where you see the value of your HR. If they're experienced enough, they know the risks. And they don't take these risks that we have to have employees' liability. A very, very common thing that I've seen lately is some companies taking out accident insurance for the employees. So if we have especially in a factory, if we have an accident, we just claim from the accident insurance. But that's a really, really big risk because they don't know how these 2 different types of insurance work, or 3 different types if you also include the social insurance. They cover different things, different liabilities. So even though your employee might have accident insurance, you're still liable for any, like if your employee has an accident, they can simply not claim through the accident insurance and claim through, like, say, you had to pay.
I know. I mean, the accident insurance, I would have thought, sort of covers maybe going to the hospital.
Yes.
But and I wanted to get onto the social insurance a bit, but so that maybe the hospital bill, but a lot of that is covered by social insurance anyway.
There's some overlap. It's three completely separate types. There's a social insurance, that there's the commercial insurance, and the two commercial ones, which are employer's liability and the group accident insurance. So the social one, it covers what the liberal law requires. Most of it, some things are not covered. Employer's liability is the broadest cover. Aside from compensation, medical fees, and even in some cases transport to and from the hospital, it also covers legal defense, which this can be very, very big. If an employee passes away and the family is entitled to compensation if it was work related. So workers' compensation, the social insurance can pay. If it's not enough, then the employer's liability kicks in and pays as well. But if after that the family thinks this is not enough, they want to go after the company for more, employer's liability will also cover legal defense fees. So if they win, then the liability insurance will cover it. If they lose, then they have to pay the legal defense costs for the company.
I'm going to summarize that, but when they say that the insurance will cover it, but do you have to put in a claim, or would they?
Yes. Like every type of insurance, as soon as an accident happens, we have to notify the insurer.
Yeah.
And they ask a lot of information. Many people complain about this when they make claims. Why are they asking for all this? But this is so that everything's very transparent. The insurance clauses are very, very clear, even though a lot of people don't read them, but it's very black and white on what's covered. And we try to make it as black and white as possible. The less gray area there is, the better. And to make these claims, you have to prove that something happened and who is liable, whose fault was it. Because there are many details. For example, someone going to work on a scooter and there's a traffic accident. Is it covered? Depends.
Depends on the insurance policy.
No, depends on why. Depends. Whose fault was it?
Yeah.
For example, easiest example, if the employee was drunk, of course it's not covered. If the employee was trying to get into a lane and the car didn't let them through, and the traffic police said it was his fault, it was not the employee's fault, then that's covered. But if the employee runs in front of a car and gets run over, and the traffic police says it was 100%, or maybe like 51% the employee's fault, then that's not covered at all. So
it's not covered by...
The employer is not liable.
I see, yeah.
So therefore, the insurance does not cover this.
Yeah. The employer is not liable.
If the employee was responsible for this accident.
Yeah.
So in China, traffic laws, they're quite interesting. Sometimes the traffic police will say half and half.
Yeah.
So if it's half and half, the employer is still liable and insurance will help cover this. But as soon as it passes over the 50%, then it's no longer the employer's liability, so insurance will not cover.
Right. Okay. So let's unpack this. So what the key question I want to sort of highlight to the audience is, when people are employed in China, they get to understand social insurance because any respecting accountant or advisor will tell them about the cost of social insurance, and it will be factored into their payroll. And I think that because it's mandatory and that they might not realize that it doesn't include employer liability insurance, because like you said, like in the UK, employer liability insurance, commercial insurance is mandatory. And then you have the national insurance, which is of course mandatory. But in China, the social insurance is mandatory, but the commercial insurance is not mandatory.
Exactly.
So therefore, a lot of employer liability is not covered by the mandatory insurance that you get when that you have to pay when you're in China. Therefore, you have to look and buy commercial insurance to manage this risk. And so, just going back to that point about traveling to work, and one sort of aspect that I've considered is like the social insurance might cover like the hospital bill if someone gets injured at work, but then it doesn't cover. It might not cover like the time off, the medical period if they have to take 6 months off work because they were traveling to work, and the social insurance will not cover that. So the commercial, the employer liability insurance would, if it was if it wasn't the fault of the employee. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's...
Lost wages is actually becoming a very, very big issue. Employers' liability insurance in China is actually losing money to the insurers because the premium to the loss ratio, it's very, very low. And this, and having foreigners employed in your company can be especially risky because usually their salaries are higher. Mm-hmm. So a broken bone maybe causes the employee to stay away from work for 2 or 4 months, and you have to pay the salary for all that time. And he's not producing, he's not adding value to the company for all of this period.
Yeah.
So
you said but lost wages is covered by
employer's liability. Yes.
Yeah.
There is an issue where we have to see what the insurance limit is.
Yeah.
Depending if the employee's salary is high enough, you might run out in a few months. Mm-hmm. So, and something that to be aware of is that your insurance policy might have a very high limit, but for each loss, they only cover up to, can be a pretty low limit, like maybe 500,000 or 1 million.
Yeah, per
like each and every loss.
Yeah.
So the policies, they have all your policies of 10 million with a sublimit of 1 million for each and every loss. So that's something that companies have to be aware of. Sometimes we have new clients coming in, like we have employers' liability already, but we'd like you to take a look at it and see what we can improve if we can get a better deal. And we see that they have a very high limit, which is very nice, but their limit per loss is quite high. So we negotiate with insurers, like increase this limit, maybe adding a little deductible, maybe like the first week of lost wages are not covered, or maybe like anything below 5,000 RMB is not covered. And that way the premium stays the same, but they have a better cover for the big,
yeah. And I think in general, yeah, I mean, from our point of view, like the client's less concerned about the deductible and more concerned about the total risk.
It depends.
It depends on the client.
It depends on the clients. We've had clients who are saying, if the insurance won't even pay 3,000, 5,000 RMB, why do I want it? Yeah. And I tell them, it will pay 500 or 2 million. Yeah. So pick the one you want. But some clients are aware of this. They come here like, I want a high deductible. But when there's a small claim, they come to us like, look, we had this small claim, it's like 5,000 RMB. Like, remember you have the deductible? Oh, okay, that's right. That's fine. Then never mind. So we do this, we pass on this information, this experience to our clients. We also help with claims as well, because a lot of small teams, they don't have someone dedicated to insurance. Maybe someone in HR or in finance, and they already have a full workload. There's an accident, they don't have the time to deal with it, so we can help as long as you provide other documents. HR gives, look, we have an accident, this is everything, please deal with it.
Yeah, right.
So we'll go after the insurance company, we know how things work, we have a very good relation with them, and we just keep like, hey, how is it going? Like, when you're going to pay us, or if it's not coverable, we'll tell like, I'm sorry, but this is not covered. You can still try to make a claim if you want, but I recommend not to waste your time on this.
Yeah. Okay. And I mean, for like remote teams, so people hiring, teams on the ground, whether through an employer of record or through, their own entity. I mean, what are the scenarios like, where, maybe a lack of insurance, has caused a big issue? I mean,
the biggest issue is that, you have employees registered in your company, but they're not actually working for you. And this can be in the service sector. We also have some clients in the industry sector, the factories who hire people temporarily. So in the HR company, they have employees just for this. So who is liable in case of an accident? This has to be clear in the contract. According to the labor law, whoever pays a salary is liable for this. So that this is where social insurance come in. And if you have employer's liability on top of that, you have the whole package. But strictly speaking, they're not really working for you. They're working for your client who are not in China. Like companies also should take care of their employees if there's an accident, in case of a death, the family is entitled to compensation, and employer's liability can help with this, with everything. So it's quite important to have it clear on the contract who is liable, but still for the employer to have this employer's liability protection.
Just on that, I mean, that's why, I mean, for us, we take it really seriously. I mean, even though, we employ people, teams, and they're obviously working for another company, yes, we can pass the risk on it, but at the end of the day, they are our employees, and we do have a duty of care towards our employees, no matter who they're working for. If we are the ones paying their salary, we are the ones paying their social insurance at the end of the day. And that is such a key element that I think companies need to sort of consider when choosing how are they going to hire their team member on the ground.
It's very important. And I've had this factory client where they have these employees who are seasonal, and they're not their employees, they're from an outsourced company. And they say, we have these people coming and going, we want to cover them. So our solution is like, you can buy a policy, but the beneficiary is the company who is outsourcing the employees.
Yeah.
Because the employees are not yours, but you can be the policy holder, you can pay for it and say, okay, in case of a loss of a claim, these employees are that company, and that company will receive the compensation, and they will cover these people who are working in your company, but who you're not paying their salary.
Yeah.
So that's another way of working as well. But if these companies are not in China, then it becomes more difficult to cover them through employees' liability.
Yeah. So I mean, that is an interesting one. I mean, if you are, even though you're not the one paying the salary, you're based, and you're not even have an operation in China, you can still buy insurance for the for the teams here on the ground that may be employed or maybe engaged by someone else, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's probably something like it's for you to tell overseas companies,
for overseas company, it might be more difficult. So it's if both companies were in China, it's much more straightforward. For companies overseas, it can be a lot more complex, a lot more costly, because you're doing something like quite more complicated, and you have less employees. Whereas you concentrate like employees from a lot of different companies, you have economies of scale as well. It's easier to manage. It's just one single policy for everyone.
So for example, if you are overseas and you have 2 or 3 employees on an employer of record or something, so you're saying it can be tricky to actually get comprehensive insurance, because again, paying the insurer and having the premium. So that's where sort of, working with a company like us, which is sort of industry specific, and we make sure that we have, we're constantly looking at our insurance policies and seeing how we can update it. Just in general, how do you feel like does the risk profile for insurance change, like compared to like certain industries? So maybe a comparison between like sort of F&B, restaurants, or office working, or manufacturing, and QCs going to traveling to factories. I mean, how do you give different types of insurance, different policies for different industries?
For employees' liability, it follows the social insurance. Social insurance, they have different job types, so job levels 1 through 5, depending on the risk. They also have different, like 10 levels of, in case of injury, 10 levels of classification. So the employee's liability, they will use the same standards.
Okay.
So office workers, they'll be the lowest risk, like level 1, maybe like level 2 if F&B, if you're serving people, you're moving around a little bit. The highest ones are if you're a coal miner, or I think level 4 if you work with woodworking or furniture companies. Level 3, you could be in the factory floor, but not actually working with machinery. So the risk assessment goes through this. The insurance company, when you apply for insurance, the insurance company asks how many employees you have, what do they do, what's the salary. So like type 1 will have this many, type 2 will have this many. So you can have an office worker in a consultant company, or you can have an office worker in a factory who just does HR work, and there will be the same level of risk. So different insurance companies, they have different appetites of risk. This also varies from one year to the next. If this year was extra bad, next year maybe they'll be more strict, they'll be more rigorous. And right now the employer's liability market is very good for the employers, for the client, because the loss ratio is just horrible for insurance companies. They're losing money with this, and they are trying to find ways around it. Because if you increase premiums too much, clients will complain. So some things they try to do is, okay, we'll sell you EL, but you have to buy other types of insurance, property insurance, public liability, professional indemnity. You get the whole package. We'll throw in employer's liability for you. So your losses from that, they're kind of offset by the other ones. It's not ideal. They're not supposed to do this, but unfortunately, that's how it works over here.
That's interesting. Yeah, so different positions will have different risk profiles when you have to tell the insurer what they're doing. So this is, I think, also depending on how you're employing your employees. So if you're just hiring sort of office workers. If an employer of record is just hiring office workers, being in a big office in Shanghai, for example, versus an employer of record who's hiring people who are going out to factories every day. They're traveling on roads, going to, relatively remote sort of factory areas, maybe inspecting goods, maybe not as risky as hiring factory operators themselves who are operating machinery, but still sort of maybe handling goods. The risk profile is different, and therefore the approach to the insurance must be different. So that's sort of, I feel like for us, one of the sort of elements where we are only focusing on this area, we can try and focus on getting the right insurance for our clients.
Yes. Traffic accidents are not very common, but they happen sometimes. They're accidents. You never know when it's going to happen, where it's going to happen. And if someone's on the road more often, either traveling by train, by car, by airplane, the likelihood of something happening is definitely higher than someone just sitting in the office the whole day.
And earlier, I mean, we sort of jumped onto employer liability insurance, but can we just go through, let's say, an insurance sort of journey on what employer liability, commercial employer liability would cover?
It covers, basically, this is just kind of repeating, it covers the employer's liability. And what does that include? In case of a work accident, then like medical fees. Some medications are not covered by social insurance. Employer's liability can cover this. Lost wages, compensation in case of accident, like permanent disability as well. Death, legal defense costs. These are pretty much the things that can be covered. So what can constitute a work accident? You're traveling to and for work, or even an office worker riding a scooter or driving to work. There's a car accident. That's a work-related accident. If you are going to a company event, it can be a social event, can be a team building event. There's an accident, someone sprains an ankle or breaks a leg, that's also covered. You are flying you're doing on a business trip on a plane or a train, and there's a serious plane accident, it falls down. That's also covered under employer's liability.
So just on that, I mean, one key point is when the employee is traveling to work and gets injured, the employer is liable for that, and therefore the insurance is really important to cover that. And that's one where, I'm not sure about in other countries, but I think that is one is a key sort of difference, because a lot of companies would argue, well, they're not at work. Our working hours are 9 till 6 or 9 till 5, and he gets injured at 8 a.m. Why is that? He wasn't at work. But that's where you don't want to leave it to the assumption or argument that it's not at work because they are traveling to work.
And sometimes you never know where employer liability claims can come from. Right? It's like some interesting stories. This was not our case. It was a friend broker who told us this case. A factory, the factory owner would buy water from like a little kiosk, maybe down the street every day. So, and the kiosk owner, he had a card to get into the factory every day. So the owner said, okay, please bring so many gallons of water. He pays by WeChat. The owner gets the payment and loads up a little cart, pulls all the water gallons to the factory, puts everything in the right place, and goes back to his tent. He does this every day for years and years and years. And one day in the factory, he trips on the stairs and falls. And then he sues for workers' compensation. And the factory owner says, "You're not my employee." But he could not prove that this guy was not his employee. Why? He received payment. He went to the factory every day and he had access.
Oh no!
They had no labor contract. But with these three, it was determined that this guy was an employee. Like you had to pay him for labor compensation.
Wow. So he received payment. He had access to the factory. Mm-hmm. And he went there every day.
Periodically. It doesn't even have to be every day. He went there periodically.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't have to be a full-time employee. It just has to be...
Maybe every two or 3 days. Yeah.
And that's where, labor relationships, contracts...
There was no contract in this case.
Ideally a contract saying, you are coming here, you're providing a service, and you're not, and this is not a labor relationship. Yeah. That's where that sort of clause, that sort of thing in a contract is so important. It's like, this is not a labor relationship.
Or maybe just having an invoice, like, please charge me for the water through an invoice, and I can prove that I paid for this water.
Yeah,
you don't
exactly.
Work here. I work from you.
Well, yeah, I know. Maybe they're just saving a tiny bit on tax by not issuing a FAPIA, but then paying... Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's just, obviously these are, risks and incidences. They're not they don't happen very often, but,
when they do happen, then sometimes you never know where it comes from. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. But there is another little story, this interesting story as well.
Yeah.
An employee joins a company, and on the second workday, they have a team building activity, and he falls down and breaks his leg. Nothing serious, just like a fissure fracture, but he gets 2 or 3 months off work. Never worked a day, stays home, receiving salary because he's entitled to it. And the company says, okay, we don't want you here anymore. So he sues the company and he wins because he started working. He was at a work-related event.
Yeah.
Team building, but still work-related, was compulsory. At the time, because the HR, they only do social insurance every 2 weeks or every month. So he joined at the beginning of the month, and it was another week or so before he was enrolled in the social insurance.
Yeah.
But that's fine because he's within the grace period. And if the employer's liability insurance that the company has does not have a clause where you have to you have to tell them straight away. If you also have a grace period, it can be a month, even 90 days. Then it'll be covered as well, the compensations there and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. It's just unfortunate. It's not really the employee's fault.
It's no one's fault. That's what accidents are.
It's an accident. Right? Yeah. But let's take that scenario. Maybe there was no alcohol at that event, but maybe for our audience overseas, maybe a lot of work-related functions in the evenings do have alcohol.
In China, it's an issue, and if I've seen a lot of cases, I've never seen a case myself, but I've heard about a lot of cases where alcohol was involved, and the court determined that because it was work-related event where people are expected to drink, then it's a work injury. Of course, you cannot drive after this. That would not be a work-related accident. Yeah. But because you fell down because you're drunk, you injure yourself, then it can be. It depends on a lot of factors. The details the insurance company will ask for a description, for proof, and then they'll see whether you're liable or not. And if you're not liable, they'll say, we have your back, we'll pay the legal defense costs. Yeah. And if the employee wants to take it to court, that's fine as well. And
I guess, if they had drinks, but they were not at the function, then if the work-related event had no alcohol, but then they were under the influence of alcohol, maybe before the event or something.
That's a very good question.
Yeah, because then you would have to prove
exactly
that there was no alcohol at the event.
Yeah.
But the whole point of this is who is liable. I mean, the point is like you might not have to go through all of this major investigation if you have insurance.
You still have to go through it, but at least you have a guide, because if a work-related accident happens, the first thing you do is tell the insurance company. Second thing you do, don't promise anything, because that's up for the insurance company to decide. If you say, okay, we'll pay you this much, the insurance company said, we'll never agree to that. That's on you.
Oh, promising the employee.
Yeah, we'll pay you this much for your injury. The insurance company then might pay that much. They might pay less. They might pay more.
Yeah.
But they have more experience on this.
Yeah.
So if you're a small company, the first time you've seen an accident, they have a lot of experience. They've seen a lot. They know how courts work.
Of course, yeah.
They know in Beijing, for example, I've heard that in case of death at work, the life is worth maybe 1.2 million RMB or so.
How much?
1.2 million.
1.2.
That's how much the courts are awarding on average. And it doesn't matter what level, how much your salary is. That's roughly how much it's been.
How important
how much your life is worth, the employee's life is worth. But a lot of people don't know. Maybe HR, if they don't have experience, they don't know this. But the insurance company does.
Yeah.
So if the family says, you had to pay me 5 million because lost wages and everything and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But the insurance company says, pay this much. Take it or leave it. If you want to take it to court.
Yeah. So just going back to that, what does employer liability show? So that in that scenario, in this worst scenario of death, the insurers, they count it as 1.2 million.
It's actually the court.
The court. Yeah. Oh, the court.
So what does it mean to be liable? It means that it was determined by law.
Yeah.
So first you go into arbitration if both sides agree to an amount to settle. And usually the insurance company, they have all this.
The insurance company must be have an involvement in that discussion in arbitration, right?
Yeah. It's pretty much the insurance company on your behalf, and they have all this experience, so they know how much to set the price. Not only on labor law, but also on public liability in case of an injury. If I'm here in your office and I slip and fall and so forth, they know how much.
Yeah.
If I say, okay, give me $2 million, insurance company says, you're dreaming, we'll give you 5,000, take you or leave it.
Yeah.
And they know that if I'm not reasonable, I can't get much more. So they work with big data.
Yeah. But talking about the legal defense, right? You said that employer liability insurance can cover the legal defense. So obviously the insurance can cover X amount, and then you said if the claimant, if it's the employee or the employee's family, don't accept it, and then they take you to court.
And then the court will determine how much has to be paid.
How much to be paid.
And that's how much the company is liable for.
Yeah, and that's how much the company is liable for. So if the company wins the case, then let's say if the company loses the case, then the insurers will cover the legal defense cost.
Plus the settlement.
Yeah, plus the settlement. If the company wins the case, then the claimant has to pay the legal defense costs.
Yeah.
But then what happens if I guess the insurer doesn't? The company's still going to have to pay the legal costs first, right?
It depends.
Because then if we're trying to get legal costs from an employee who's just lost it.
It depends. Some insurance companies, they will appoint a lawyer.
Yeah.
So that's even less work off your back. And some, depending not only for employers' liability, other types of liability, they also cover defense costs. Some will pay installments. So here's 50,000 to start, and then if this drags on, they'll look at it and say, okay, here's another 50 or another 100.
Yeah.
So that can be included in the policy as well.
Yeah. So because that would make a huge difference, because that's the thing. It's like going through this lawsuit, even though after insurance, and then you're having to pay up front the legal costs. And
it helps a lot with cash flow. Insurance is meant to protect the company financially for the big risks and cash flow problems.
Yeah. So you're saying like the insurance, the legal fees could be covered. If the insurer appoints the lawyer, then surely they will pay the lawyer directly, right?
Usually, yes.
Usually, yeah. But then, if they don't appoint the lawyer, then
it's on a case by case.
It's case by case, because medical insurance, they have like direct billing with some hospitals, right? Yes. But like, does employer liability insurance have direct billing with some of the law firms?
Something like that. It can be negotiated if the client says we want this to be covered. We can check with the insurer.
Yeah.
So because different insurance companies will have different policies.
Yeah.
And some will say, sorry, we don't do this. So maybe we'll take them out of, we won't quote with them. Others say, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
We have lawyers, we have a lawyer team who work with this. So we don't even need to pay. We just put them on phone for our company with there.
Yeah, right. And then going back to traveling to work, right? We also discussed it before, like extreme weather. So for example, I'll give you a case, like for us, it's this hasn't happened, but there's always a risk of it happening. Flooding in China is becoming a serious thing. As in northern China, where it can be very dry for months on end, and then a huge downfall of rain can cause serious flooding. And going to the factories to inspect goods when we know that the area around the factory is flooded and it could be dangerous, right? So how does the insurance work with that?
In terms of employer's liability, I haven't seen policies where this is specifically excluded, but I've seen policies where we added this clause, the extension clause, saying in case of extreme weather, but where the worker is instructed to go to work and an accident happens, then the insurance will cover this liability.
They will cover it.
Yeah, so it depends on the policy. When you buy the insurance, it's best to check. But we can add these extension clauses in the insurance where they say, yes, we agree, we can include this, or no, we don't.
Yeah, because that's we're here in South China, and I use the North China example, but actually in South China there's a lot of typhoons. Yeah. There was a horrendous one in Hong Kong last year. What if there's like a public announcement saying do not go outside?
Yeah.
There was one, it was funny, the one earlier this year in Hong Kong, it was terrible just off the coast of Hong Kong, but like it impacted here. And what they were using sort of COVID style terminology, like do not go outside today. Imagine this is COVID again, stay inside. And these were like announcements coming, people getting text messages about it. Yeah. What if, the thing is about that is that you'd have to tell them you wouldn't want your employees to go out, but exactly. What if they just went out anyway? Because sometimes you incentivize people to go to factories that can be part of their KPI. So how does that work?
I think there's 3 different cases. One where you tell them not to go, but they go anyway. If anything happens, that's entirely on them.
Yeah.
But you have to have proof, like an email or a message saying do not go. Second one is that you tell them to go, they go and something happens, then you are liable because they were working under your instructions. The third one is that they did not ask.
And you did not tell.
And maybe you're not aware of it. And that can be a gray area. Honestly, I'm not sure. It's case by case. Maybe the insurance company will ask some questions like, is there a guideline on this? Like an employer's handbook, does it mention anything?
Yeah.
So it can be very difficult to say how they would determine this.
So then also, employer liability is the most comprehensive sort of aspect of insurance that covers a lot of risk if you are employing people here in China. But I want to talk about the sort of the crossover with public liability as well. We use an example. This is a case that, again, it didn't happen, but there was a chance of it happening. Is factories with, when it comes to quality and issues, maybe a QC inspector getting into an argument with a factory boss or something, and maybe even getting into a fight.
Yes.
So, you've got a third party involved and you've got your employee involved in a fight. So let's talk about what kind of scenarios would be covered by employee liability, or would you need employee liability, or what would be public liability?
Public liability is the other side of the coin. I guess employer's liability is your employees. Public liability is everyone else. It can be clients, it can be contractors, suppliers, and not only people, but also property.
Yeah.
For example, like machinery at a factory you're visiting, or it's not only other people. So in the case you mentioned of an argument, if worst case scenario, there's a fight, people get injured on both sides. First thing is, whose fault is it?
Yeah.
If it's the supplier's fault and the employee got injured, then you're covered by employer's liability. But if your employee, the QC started the fight, then the other side was injured, then you are liable to them. And public liability can cover this. As long as you did not ask him to start the fight, that's an issue.
Yeah.
So like the company is liable, but you cannot be a part of it. It has to be an action of your employee on his own. So like medical fees, any compensation, and also loss of property to the third party, be it a factory, be it a client, it can be a client you're visiting. This can be covered under public liability.
Yeah, and again, like we said, it can happen. Arguments definitely happen, and they're heated, and I don't know. There's personality clashes.
Yes.
Yeah,
slightly different scenario, but it could happen because of disagreement. One of our clients is a bar, and he had a patron, someone drinking at the bar, who had a little bit too much to drink and was making a mess. And the waiter says, "Please leave." The guy didn't want to leave, so the waiter escorted him out. And outside the bar, this patron was very drunk. He tried to pick a fight. Like, he was trying to make the waiter angry, and the waiter just punched him. It was quite serious. The person ended up in the hospital, had to go several times, and they sued the bar they went after the bar for compensation. And our client wanted to cover this through the public liability insurance. The insurance said no, because your employee hit him. But we explained that the employee was not under instructions to hit the guy. He did that on his own because of the circumstances. He was angry. The other guy was asking for it. Of course, it's not supposed to happen, but it did happen. It was not the owner's fault. It was not the client's fault. So in the end, the compensation was paid, medical fees, and a small amount of compensation.
Yeah, it does seem like you can be you're fighting two battles. One is the lawsuit from the claimant, but then the second is the claim with the insurer. So in that case, that bar it's got the lawsuit from the thing, but then he's also having to fight for the insurance to cover it, right? So,
he
not fight.
He got this claim. Yes, he got this claim. He said, "Okay, I have insurance. I'm covered." But the insurance said, "Okay, no, you're not." So we explained everything how it should be covered, and in the end, the insurance company agreed. So it was all the same process.
But that's the thing, isn't it? It's not like dissimilar to the documentation. The termination one we had earlier. It's like there's so much in about how it's documented. How So for example, like on the surface. They're not covered, but then it's all about the details, isn't it?
Well, you mentioned investigation just now, where if you have insurance, you don't have to go to investigation. If you have insurance, that's when you go deep into investigation.
So the key is really to have someone on your team who is willing to go down that rabbit hole and sort of just document everything. So, someone a real details person to to uncover and be really transparent for the insurers. The insurers are going to love someone like that.
Right? Have you registered an email or at least a WeChat, like bad weather, please don't go.
Yeah.
That's more than enough.
Yeah.
You have date and time. That's more than enough.
Yeah.
And these investigations can be much more directed, much easier with the insurer, because they know what to look for. They'll ask for this, and that. If you have it, or if you don't have it, that's another issue altogether. But at least you don't have to think, okay, what do I need? What do I need? The insurance company, they know exactly what's necessary for this.
Yeah. But then that's also why it's really important to have strong sort of SOPs from an HR point of view. When these things happen, this is how you should react, and just not really necessarily, just having building that into your process is really
like a lot of different processes, like employee handbook rules that they have to follow, also workflows, work processes. When you're doing quality control, what you have to check, what you don't have, what you cannot do, not to cause any loss to the factory you're visiting, and so on.
Yeah, so we covered some interesting examples, but let's say a new company is coming in and they've got 5 people on the ground, and let's say they have their own entity. What does a sensible policy look like? Let's say they've got a sourcing manager, a QC, and a couple of merchandisers. How would you sort of talk to a company like this?
Employees' liability is important. I will explain the risk, like what we've been doing now. Public liability can be important depending how much risk you think you have. Like, how likely are you to be sued in case something happens? And like, how big is your public? How big are your suppliers? How big is the risk? How much time you spend there? What do you do there? So that's how much you weigh the pros and cons. As an insurance broker, it's I say this because I work with this. I say get public liability. It's important. But some people say, okay, I haven't had anything for the last 5 years, 10 years, so I don't want to get anything. That's understandable, but I've had people say, like, oh, we had an accident just now, like, I've been thinking about my insurance. That can be a little bit too late. Because the first thing that the insurance company asks, like, what's your loss record for the last 3 years or 5 years? Oh, we just had something yesterday.
Oh, right, yeah.
So that can be awkward,
but that's also like, the bigger you get, the more people involved, and
the more things you do,
and therefore the more risk, therefore the more insurance. So a small company, that's like what you said earlier. You employ one person, then you've immediately got employer liability insurance. That person is going to work every day, come back from work. Then that's an issue. Actually, there is one thing I wanted to ask about then is, what if people are working from home?
Work-related accidents at home are very, very difficult. You have to prove.
But does the employee have to prove that that is work?
Yes.
So if they're working from home, and then there's some form of injury, really like
best case scenario, you're in a Zoom meeting, you have a heart attack, everybody can see it.
Right. Yeah.
Otherwise, like, you have to prove that you're not in your bed, like just on WeChat, that you're not eating, like, or you didn't go downstairs to pick up a idea package. If you have a camera on your work area and you're working, because if you're working from home, you're not traveling to work. You're pretty much sitting in front of the computer. And what can happen? Like the accidents that can happen are the odds are very, very low. So if you have a camera trained on your desk, and you have an accident while you're sitting there.
The chair breaks. And then you injure your back or something.
Or maybe you slip off your back. But it can be very tricky.
Tricky for the employee to claim. Okay.
And the insurance company will say, if you cannot prove it, then we're not liable. It's not covered. You can take it to court if you want.
I see. Okay, we are going to wrap up this conversation on insurance today. So, Timur, before we go, can you just give some key points of what you would tell a company if they don't know anything about insurance in China?
For employers' liability, the most important thing is buy it. Have it. Accident insurance, it's an option, but you really need employer's liability. If you already have a policy, look at it. The main things are the limits, the total limit, sub-limits as well, because insurance can have very high limit, but also for each and every loss, the limit can be quite low, 100,000, 500,000, and that's not enough for a lot of cases. These are the two main ones. If you want to control costs a little bit, maybe accept a deductible. Anything below 5,000, 10,000 RMB is not covered, or have like lost wages only covered after the first week or after the first few days. Those are ways to control costs. Those are the main points. Smaller issues is the type of work your employees do. If they travel a lot, or if they go to a lot of events, you might have some extension clauses in the policies to cover to take specific scenarios out of the gray area. So this is what you should go through with your broker and so on. Kinyu's employer's liability policy is very good. You are well covered. You don't need to worry about this. So you can focus on just doing your job and providing the best service possible.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Timur, and thank you for watching or listening. If you're listening on the go, please do make sure to like and subscribe. Again, we've got lots of different episodes on all manner of HR and management and China supply chain. So see you next time on the ground.